Have you ever felt like you were standing in line for a promise that kept moving further away the closer you got? Like every time you stretched your hand toward a dream, it slipped right through your fingers? Maybe you've carried a vision in your heart for years. A quiet hope, a personal calling, a breakthrough you believed was coming. And now you're tired, not because you stopped believing, but because you've waited so long that your hope feels bruised. The world moves fast, and in that speed, your stillness feels like failure. But I want to tell you something. Your delay was never a denial. Your stillness was not punishment. It was preparation. You see, life has a way of making us think that if something hasn't happened yet, it never will. That silence is a sign we've been forgotten. But silence isn't absence, it's alignment. Jesus didn't live in a hurry. He moved at the pace of purpose. And if you're in a season where it feels like everything is standing still, that may be the very evidence that God is getting everything ready at once. So when the moment comes, it all unfolds with clarity. What you've been carrying internally, those prayers you whispered when no one was watching, those sacrifices no one applauded, those tears you never posted about, they're not lost. They're seeds. And now the season is shifting, not because you've done everything right, but because your time is finally aligning with divine timing. We often think that when something is about to happen, we'll see it first with our eyes. But the truth is, we feel it first in our spirit. That subtle shift, the weight in your chest lifting just a little, the cloudiness in your mind starting to clear, the anxious rush being replaced by an unexplainable calm. That's not random. That's not your imagination. That's the first sign that something greater is moving. God always begins transformation on the inside before He displays it on the outside. And while the world tells you to wait for external confirmation, approval, opportunity, applause, Jesus teaches us that the kingdom moves from the inside out. If your inner atmosphere is shifting, your outer world is about to follow. This isn't about wishful thinking or empty motivation. This is about the deep spiritual truth that what is planted in quietness eventually breaks through the surface. You're not stuck. You're being stretched. And that feeling, that strange mix of peace and expectancy, is not confusion. It's confirmation. What you thought was hope deferred is actually hope maturing. You're closer than you think. In fact, it's already beginning. But here's the key. You need to pay attention to the signs that don't look like signs. The small moments, the meaningful conversations, the scriptures or words that echo back at just the right time. These are not coincidences. These are the fingerprints of a God who never forgets. Jesus always pointed people to pay attention, to notice, to stay awake, not just physically, but spiritually. And in this season, the same call is for you. Look deeper. That conversation you had yesterday that stirred something inside you, that was not just a talk. That was a whisper of what's coming. That idea that won't leave your mind, that's not a distraction. That's a seed of purpose. The peace you feel in places where you used to panic, that's not emotional numbness. That's spiritual alignment. And alignment always precedes arrival. But here's where many of us get it wrong. We think we have to hustle to make things happen. That we have to fight for what's ours. That we have to knock down every door and push through every obstacle. But the way of Jesus isn't striving. It's surrender. He never told His followers to exhaust themselves proving they were worthy. He told them to believe, to follow, and to remain in Him. That's alignment, not action rooted in fear, but movement born from trust. And when your heart is aligned with something greater than yourself, you don't chase, it finds you. This is not the season to force anything. This is the season to flow with what is already opening up. Relationships, opportunities, insights. They're not arriving because you finally earned them. They're appearing because you're finally ready to hold them. The posture of your heart has shifted. You've stopped asking, when will it happen, and started asking, what are you doing in me while I wait? That's the shift that changes everything. Because now, you're not begging for permission. You're walking in alignment. And when you align with purpose, provision follows. So don't be surprised when doors start opening that you didn't even knock on. Don't be confused when people reach out to partner with your vision without you having to pitch it. Don't second guess yourself when ideas begin to click and things start falling into place. That's not luck. That's legacy. That's not coincidence. That's confirmation. You've been walking in the dark long enough to know what light feels like when it finally returns. And now that it's here, don't shrink. Don't apologize for the favor that's following you. It's not pride to walk confidently through the door that God has opened. It's obedience. You are not being positioned to perform. You are being placed to build something lasting, to build something that others can be healed by, to build something that reflects not just your talent, but your trust. And as you do, remember this: the pressure is easing, not because the world got easier, but because your heart got stronger. The fog is lifting, not because circumstances cleared up, but because you stopped relying on sight alone and started trusting what you know in your spirit. You've been made steady, not by the absence of trials, but by the presence of peace. So today, don't let your history rob you of your destiny. Don't let the wounds of waiting cause you to doubt the wonder of this moment. What you once thought had passed you by is arriving, not late, not early, but right on time. His time. And His timing is never rushed, never random, always right. Now, there comes a moment in life when the silence you've walked through is no longer a burden, but a testimony. A moment when the things you nurtured in secret begin to rise to the surface, not because you chased them, but because they were always meant to find you. Some of you have spent years wondering if anyone noticed, if the love you gave, the obedience you chose, the private tears you cried would ever be acknowledged. You weren't asking for applause. You were just hoping heaven hadn't forgotten. And now, the time has come, not for validation, but for manifestation. What you carried quietly is about to be seen loudly, not for the sake of pride, but for the purpose of divine recognition. Because you see, the teachings of Jesus were never about seeking fame, but they were always about revealing fruit. And when fruit appears, it speaks for itself. God is not promoting you for attention. He's positioning you for impact. You're about to step into rooms not to prove your worth, but to release what has been cultivated in the dark. Those closed doors that once made you feel overlooked, they're opening not because you changed, but because you aligned. And with those doors will come people who finally understand your language, who recognize your purpose without you having to explain it. They won't come to complete you or crown you. They'll come to collaborate. You've walked long enough with people who misunderstood your fire, minimized your burden, or drained your spirit. But now, a shift is taking place. Jesus never sent His disciples out alone. He sent them in pairs, in teams, in purpose-filled unity. Because kingdom movement requires kingdom-minded people. And the ones entering your life now won't compete with your calling. They'll help you carry it. These are divine partnerships. People who will not only believe in what God has said about you, but who were divinely assigned to be a part of its unfolding. So don't get stuck in the old rhythm of striving. The next season is not about pushing to make it happen. It's about building from a place of peace. Because now, when you work, heaven breathes on your effort. What once felt like you were swimming against the current will now begin to feel like you're flowing with it. But hear me clearly. This does not mean it will be easy. It means it will be anointed. And there is a difference. Jesus never promised a life without storms, but He did promise peace in the middle of them. And in this season, you're going to build, not in chaos, not in pressure, but in divine rhythm. Because you're no longer reacting to the world, you're responding to God. And finally, discipline your words. This is a season where your mouth must match your mission. What you speak carries weight. You can't afford to echo fear or doubt. Speak as someone who knows you've been remembered. Declare what is true, even if your reality hasn't caught up yet. Call yourself healed. Call yourself chosen. Call yourself aligned. Speak the language of heaven until the atmosphere around you shifts to match it. So don't look back. Don't hesitate. Don't second-guess the signs. This is not a season of confusion. This is a season of confirmation. And the only thing required of you now is obedience, clarity, and consistency. He has remembered. He has confirmed. And now, through you, He will reveal what it looks like when someone walks faithfully through the hidden years and emerges not with ego, but with evidence. Now is not the time to shrink. Now is the time to rise, not in pride, but in purpose. Because your life, your story, your journey is about to become a sign that God still sees, that He still speaks, that He still answers, and most of all, that He still remembers.